football podcast called Living the Stream comes to you each week. Streaming recommendations during NFL season, it's not just tongue-in-cheek. Quarterback, defense, tight end recommendations based on opposition matchup. Here are your podcast hosts, JJ Zacharyson and Danny Carter, living the stream.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Living the Stream. I'm JJ Zacharyson, the late round quarterback, and as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host, Danny Carter. Danny, what's going on, buddy?
Out of control, completely out of control. I have tilted enough for 3 seasons through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I feel like we are, like I said last week, I feel like we're approaching Thanksgiving now, and that's good. And then I look forward to, and then I look at the schedule and I think, my God, what's happening? It's something that you look forward to all year, and then you get there and you think, wait, August was nice. I liked August. I like July better.
Yeah. I went and I looked at, and I thought about this, and I was writing my 15 transactions for week 3 article. And I was like, cover your kids' ears. Actually, I won't say it. Holy SHIT, folks. We still have 14 weeks to go. Actually, 15 if you're really going into week 18 and playing that game.
I'm just glad that you told everybody to earmuff it.
Yeah, and then I said to myself, you know what? I don't think it's time to throw the SH bomb out there.
Only when you're truly fired up. That's when it's excusable, and the kids will understand.
Right,
you know?
right. In that case. Speaking of being fired up, Denny.
Yes.
This past weekend, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I'm usually not, if you haven't noticed, I'm usually not very active on social media over the weekend because it's usually, more of a family time. But over the weekend, there was a tweet by a guy named Dan Clark. He's at Dan Clark Sports. And look, I'm calling him out here, not to like call him out. I'm only saying like, you guys would know what I'm talking about because the tweet went viral. In the tweet, he said that when he goes on shows and he's a guest of a podcast, okay, he says that he charges $50 to $100 per show. And he says that because he spends an hour plus researching for the stuff that he's going to talk about on that show, and his time is valuable, right? And so when he did that on one show, someone said, "Hey, come on my show." And he goes, "Well, I charge, $75 for the show." And the guy told him to F off. He didn't use the word or the letter F. He actually said the word, because we don't swear on the show.
No, never. We never have.
So the guy is like going back, like, and, he's saying, as he's saying all of this, he sent some tweets like, someone responded who had like 500 followers. And he was like, if this ever happened to me, I would just go on the show for free or something like that. And then the guy quote tweeted him and he was like, "Huh, you have 500 followers." And he was like acting all high and mighty because checks notes here. He has 42,000 followers. Also doesn't have the best follower ratio. He's following 26,000 accounts. So let's not pretend that this guy is this high in demand, baseball guy. And so, he sends that tweet. And then, I sent a quote tweet out that said, "Don't be Dan Clark," because it was just a very obnoxious way to approach that. And then from there, when he sent that one tweet saying like, "Oh, you have 500 followers. This is marketing 101, champ." That's what he said. I responded because I have more followers than this guy does, because clearly followers matter to him a lot. And I said, "Hey, look, I don't charge when I go on podcasts." And then he came back to me and he was not nearly as mean to me as he was that other guy. And then I said, "Well, I care about relationship building. I care about paying it forward, all of that when I go on these other shows." And then I said marketing 101, champ, because obviously the relationship building stuff is important. But I think that this discussion is at least a little bit interesting. And I think people might want to hear us talk about this because I want people to know, number one, that it is not normal to ask for money to go on a show, because usually people are going on shows for exposure, right? So like radio, for instance, right? People are going on radio, not just to like get paid money to go on radio, unless you're doing like a recurring segment or something. But people aren't going on radio just to go on radio. They're doing it for exposure. They're not going on podcasts just to go on podcasts. They're doing it for exposure. And there is a dollar value related to that exposure. Now, I know that Denny isn't going to have the exact same take as me when it comes to this, because Denny will probably say that he should be trying to, that we are working, right? These are hours worked that we're putting into this, and we should get paid for it in some way. So what's your overall take on this?
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I would I turn down money if it was offered to me to go on podcasts,
Right.
And I mean, now that I work for the Grand Peacock, yes, I would have to. I would turn down that money. But in the before times, I would have happily taken it. The thing that just doesn't sit right with me is an hour of prep time. Now, that is a lot. That is a lot of prep time for a podcast. Like I put a lot of prep time into this.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm gonna draw back the curtain a little bit. It's about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But in 30 minutes of pure prep time, no distractions, no Twitter. I know it's amazing. I stay out of Twitter for 30 minutes, no kids, no nothing. 30 minutes, you can get a lot of research done. A lot. Okay. For one show. We're talking about one show. We're not talking about a whole season full of shows. And so an hour seems excessive to me. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it seems a little much. Now, demanding money, I don't know about that. I don't. There have been lots of people who have come on stuff that we've done back before, before we were accepted by the mainstream media, and people, what much bigger than us in the industry who came to us and talked to us for nothing and didn't expect anything. And that was, right. And so there is a thing, the concept of paying it forward does come into play here.
Yeah, look, I think it's really, really important. I go on as many shows as I can because I think I'm not even saying like, oh, I'm better than you, I have more followers, but I'm also just realistic in knowing that if you have a show that you just started and I go on that show, you're probably going to get at least some more listens. But number one, this guy is overrating the absolute crap out of what he brings to a podcast, because he part of his logic was that him getting $50 to $100 was that he was getting more exposure for that podcast because he would tweet it out. I don't think people understand the conversion on a tweet like that and the value of a tweet like that. It is not significant whatsoever. No. And then not only that, I mean, look, there's a lot to dive in here. Number one, with regards to the research thing, I research for every single podcast that I go on because I have a general, I get anxiety with literally anything that I do. And I've learned through just living life that when I prepare, I just feel a lot better internally going into a situation and going into a show. And so I research everything. Every single show I go on, I have some sort of research. I hate when there's not an agenda, which is why I hate doing radio, because radio usually doesn't have agendas. But the other thing, to your point about this show, we do have some redundancy with this show, to be fair, so that we know like exactly where we're going and what we're looking for and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you this, Matt Kelly. Okay. Everyone knows Matt Kelly, Roto Wonderworld. And he does his podcast that's like 14 hours long. It's like the Joe Rogan of the fantasy world in terms of length. He will send a show sheet, and there are probably 40 questions on the show sheet. Whenever I go on the show, I will research them and I will put answers to all of those things. That's the longest that I will take to research a show. And I don't think I've ever done it for more than an hour. Like, I don't think it's ever gotten into an hour. So This is just telling us that this guy doesn't know his material very well. So that means that he's not as good of a guest, which once again, he's overinflating his own value that he's bringing to these shows. But here's the real like problem with how this all works is that a show that gets you a lot, by the way, when I was going back and forth with this guy, he deletes all of his tweets to people. So like after a half hour, he deleted all the tweets that we had. And he was like, oh yeah, this is what I do. I delete these tweets when I'm adding people. So you can't go back and look. But at one point he told me I would go on your podcast for free and talk about this. That's what he told me. And I gave him the Randy Jackson, that's going to be a no from me dog gif. That's how I responded to him.
I saw that.
So he clearly understands the value of exposure by saying something like that, right? And so regardless though, the issue with this whole getting paid to go on a podcast or not, let's just group podcasts into two different podcasts, a podcast that can make money and a podcast that can't make money. And you need thousands and thousands of listens in order to monetize a podcast generally, unless you're doing it for like a company and you're cross-selling and all that kind of stuff. You need thousands and thousands of listens in order to truly monetize a podcast in some way. And so unless you have like Patreon or something too, but regardless, let's just bucket podcasts into two distinct groups, one being one that can make money and one that can't, right? Mm-hmm. The one that can make a lot of money, that means that they're getting a lot of listens, right? Mm-hmm. So if you go on that show, you're getting insane exposure. And that's the entire point. There's an insane amount of value in that exposure piece. I mean, I understand that like it's your time and you should be paid for your time, but you can't just like ignore the fact that there's a marketing component to what we do as journalists, as analysts. I mean, I'm not a journalist, but this guy, any journalist, any analyst, any person who's a brand on social media, getting exposure is important and it is money. It's valuable, right? And then on the flip side, you go on a show that doesn't get a lot of listens, doesn't monetize their podcast, and then you ask them for money, right? That's the problem, is that show doesn't have money to give you. And there's no reason that they would then give you money. I mean, look, if this guy's making money off of going on podcasts, good for him. That wasn't even my issue with what he said, really. If he wants to go and say, hey, give me $50 to go on your show and someone's giving him that, good for him. My issue is the arrogance, is the cockiness, is the approach and the talking down to people as he went about this. And then in his profile saying like, his profile's changed since then, but his profile at the time was like, I get paid to give my opinions and I don't care if you're offended. And then the dude, after he gets destroyed, after his tweet goes viral, the dude makes his account private and then he changes his profile. What is that? I mean, he's soft. I mean, like I've never called another man soft in my life, but this is soft. Like this is like
he went from are you triggered to I talk about sports.
Right. So. It's just this tough guy attitude on the internet. And it's just so obnoxious. And I just hate it so much. So I had to call him out. And I was one of the few people who he went back and forth with on this topic. And again, to reiterate, you can ask for $1,000 an episode. I don't care. Just don't go to Twitter. Don't go to Twitter and start like talking down on people and throwing someone under the bus for saying F you in response to, honestly, a very unorthodox way of approaching going on a podcast.
Sure. Yeah. My one issue that comes up here with the payment stuff is that I don't want a conversation like this to be conflated with us. And I know you wouldn't either, conflated with us saying fantasy analysts, writers shouldn't ask for decent money to do their jobs. That's not the same thing. No. Because there are lots of people being taken advantage of every season and off season for that matter, with very low pay for some hard work, for some hard numbers crunching and lots of words written. And so, I don't want people to think that they have to take whatever they're given. But this podcast issue is something different, I think.
It's something different too, because he doesn't own the podcast, whereas you would own a lot of the written word that you would be putting together. And then obviously it just takes more time to do something like that and put it together, and there's more value from that. But I'm just not a fan of his approach and how he went about this. If you really want to try to get money, and look, I understand that there's plenty of people out there who need money and who are doing this in a way like they need it to survive, let's say, right? Like they need to make money writing any sort of content because they need to put food on the table. That's totally understandable. If there's a podcast that says, I don't want to pay you, then understand that, right? Mm-hmm. Like don't go on Twitter and get all upset that he said F you. Mm-hmm. You have to have some self-awareness to know that this is not a normal request. And then from there, act accordingly. Right? Like don't air your grievances on Twitter for something like that. That's something that should be behind the scenes. And that's why the dude got destroyed. I think, 99% of people understand to not charge for going on a show like that because of what I talked about earlier. But at the same time, I'm not even really faulting him for that. And that's what people didn't necessarily understand with my tweet, because my tweet was not very descriptive, but I wasn't really upset about the fact that he was like asking for money. I was just more upset about him just being a complete douchebag.
Yeah. Don't make fun of people's follower count.
Yeah, like don't do that. It's just so dumb.
That's very, that's not okay. It's very, makes you look insecure, even if you're not.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's insecure. There's no doubt he's insecure.
And secondly, we could solve this issue if Congress would pass a stimulus for podcast appearances, for podcast guests. And you know what, though? Joe Biden won't sign the bill. So that's Joe, I know you're listening. You got to do it, man. You got to funnel some cash to us podcast guests, please.
Let's talk week 2 streamers. I say week 2 because I want to recap before I get to week 3. I'd say overall not great. No. Speaking of Twitter etiquette, I have a new rule. Here's my new rule, Denny. If I give a recommendation, a play for someone to use, and the game is still going on and they're moaning and yelling at me on Twitter because I recommended something that wasn't working and the game isn't over yet, you're muted.
You've got to wait.
Oblivion. I mute you. You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to wait. So that happened with the Packers on Monday night. They ended up still scoring 6 fantasy points. They were a fringe top 12 defense this past week, even though they were horrendous. I mean, the Packers defense is so bad.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. So the Packers and Bengals both scored 6 and the Giants scored 2. Teddy Bridgewater was the main streamer. He had 21.2 fantasy points. Pretty good day for him. Ben Roethlisberger looked like, he looked like a zombie. Man, I mean, he is just dust.
He got hit at one point. I'm sure you saw it. He got hit by that crazy edge rusher for the Raiders.
Yeah.
It looked like he might just lay there for the rest of the game.
Yeah. He just,
the look on his face was like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. It's just not looking good for Roethlisberger. He had 13.8. He actually saved his day because of that Najee touchdown. Mac Jones was a deep play. Didn't really come through though. He only scored 7.4. Tight end. So remember last week we entered the week. We're like, yeah, we feel pretty good about tight end. Tight end's pretty good. Guys, tight end is back to being the absolute S-show D-fire that we've learned to love over the last 3 years. It was bad. It was really bad. So Jared Cook, our best tight end, our favorite tight end this past week, he scored 5.8 points. Cole Kmet did not do anything. Neither did Adam Troutman. Adam Troutman, is he in the NFL anymore? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Your boy James O'Shaughnessy ended up getting hurt. So he only scored. James O'Shaughnessy was about to have a huge day, folks.
He was. Huge day. He was on his way to 8 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. Mark my words.
Oh man, Dalton Schultz 3.8. I mean, it was just not great for tight ends, but it's just not great for tight ends really across the league, unfortunately. So Denny, let's just move on to week 3. We both have 2 quarterbacks to talk about. Actually, I have 3 quarterbacks to talk about. So I am going to start. I'll kick things off.
Okay.
I think the top streamer this week, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think the top streamer this week is Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones, and that was real vomit, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is a top 5 quarterback right now in fantasy football. There's only 2 quarterbacks with more rushing yards than him, Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. Those are the only 2 that have more rushing yards than Daniel Jones. I don't think it's that, like, it's fluky to some degree, but they're using him in that. I mean, they're rolling him out a lot, and like there's a lot of that action going on, RPOs and such. And so this is the Jason Garrett offense. Atlanta is who he faces this week. They have one of the worst secondaries in the league. They had one of the worst entering the season. They've done nothing to change my mind. Jalen Hurts and Tom Brady were both top 5 passers against them. And actually this is pegged as one of the fastest paced games on the slate this week, with both of these teams running fairly fast through the first 2 weeks of the season. And it has a decent 48.5 point over under. The Giants are 3-point favorites, so they have a good implied team total. I'm saying 2 things here. Number 1, Daniel Jones is the top streamer. Number 2, a buy candidate on the 15 transactions episode this week was Kenny Golladay. I think he has a big game too.
I can see that. I mean, this game is low key appealing.
Yeah.
I think. All right. We're back to Teddy Bridgewater. Someone on Twitter reminded me that we used to call him Medi Bridgewater, as in med.
Oh yeah, we did.
And really, nothing.
It's not changed.
Yeah, really nothing has changed. Nothing against Teddy, seems like a good guy, whatever, but let's pump the brakes on stripping him of his nickname. The Broncos are 11.5-point favorites against the Jets this week. They're at home. 26.5 point implied total for Denver. The Jets are a mess in every way, including on defense. Quarterbacks are completing almost 71% of their passes against the Jets. That's the 8th highest rate in the league. Teddy himself is completing 77% of his passes through 2 games, which is quite high, unbelievably high, some would say. And, he still somehow has that kind of low key rushing appeal. He has 7 rushing attempts through 2 games. I mean, it's not, Lamar or anything. It's not Daniel Jones, but it's something. So I think that floor wise, he's going to continue to perform. And everything lines up for him to be a streamer once again this week.
Yep. I dig Teddy. I think Daniel Jones is a better play. Would you agree that Daniel Jones is the top guy?
I think so. I think so because I think that the Broncos could destroy the Jets on the ground, but I know we shouldn't base our decisions on that. I do like Jones though because of the rushing. Yeah,
there's less back and forth opportunity in that Jets Broncos game than there is in the Falcons Giants game.
Yes,
I think that's what it comes down to. Plus the rushing, obviously. I'm going to go to Derek Carr. Derek Carr, who some would say is the MVP of the league right now. I mean. Well, he's played really, really well. You can't really deny it that he's played well. Derek Carr went from being overrated to underrated to now he's almost overrated because everyone talks about him being underrated.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like you can't be underrated if literally everyone is saying that you're underrated.
No one believes in the guy who has the 7th most passing yards through 2 weeks in NFL history. No one believes it.
Yeah. Right. So Derek Carr gets Miami this week. He's been really good. I don't think this is the best matchup in the world. We have a small sample size, and in that small sample, they have been the 10th best matchup for quarterbacks in terms of adjusted points allowed. So, that's something, but I wouldn't really put that much stock into it. I mean, it's a decent defense. I mean, we're not going to be like, trying to attack the Miami defense each week, but there is a 24.5 point implied team total for the Raiders. And Derek Carr, who historically has been a fairly conservative quarterback, through 2 games, he's throwing it deep, 15 plus air yards at the 4th highest rate in the league. Yeah. So you got that going for you too, where he can make that big play as he did, with Henry Ruggs against the Steelers. So I think Carr is in play, pretty safe option. I'd put him in the same tier as Teddy Bridgewater, probably.
I think you're just playing like your Raiders, not all of them, of course, but like I like Carr. Obviously there's Waller. Renfro looks good. I wrote up Daniel Carlson, the kicker for Vegas. We're going to talk about their defense in a second. Release the Raiders.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, my dog's running around upstairs.
I think people might have just heard my chair. Did you hear my chair just now too?
Was it a fart?
As I adjusted. No, that's what I'm saying. People are gonna say that it was a fart on my end, but it was not a fart. I was adjusting, and I put my arms on the side of my chair to lift myself up and adjust. But Denny cannot wait to make this Fartgate 2.0. Let me tell you.
I'm not going to, no, because I know that you are COVID safe and you don't fart because you pass on the particles, and that we don't do that. All right. So I'm next, right? Sam Darnold at Houston Thursday night, a classic Panthers-Texans Thursday nighter. So Darnold is averaging 19 fantasy points per game, and he only has 3 touchdowns through 2 games. So that seems sustainable and good. Should have lots of time to operate in the pocket against Houston, since the Texans have one of the lowest sack rates in the league. Despite recording 4 interceptions, Houston has given up 28 points and 21 points to opposing quarterbacks. That's fantasy points, I should say. Darnold's adjusted yards per attempt is 8.2. That's more than 2 yards higher than his career rate. So I think that we have seen the thing happen with Darnold kind of, turning around from the Adam Gase abyss here.
Yeah.
In the first 2 weeks. I don't know if he's like a monster ceiling option here, but man, I feel good about, a couple touchdowns, 250 yards.
Yeah. Darnold's played well. We'll see how it holds. They've had a good schedule, but they get a good matchup here. So I would feel fine with him as well. I think once again, he's in these are all good options this week. Even this last guy that I want to talk about, low key, a good option. Jimmy Garoppolo going up against Green Bay. Green Bay's defense is horrible. I mean, they've been so bad. Jameis Winston destroys them in week 1. Last week, on the Monday night game, Jared Goff looked pretty good against them for a lot of that game. I was sweating bad because I had the Packers defense in the league and I couldn't not. I was already winning. I was up by 2.5, but the league settings didn't allow me to bench them. So I had to play them. And so to get -3, they would need no sacks, no turnovers, and allow 31 or more points.
Right.
And I legitimately thought that I was not going to get it after that first half. Like,
it wasn't
legit.
good.
No, it was not looking good at all. But they did but they played better in that second half, but they still weren't playing that well. The thing that I like about Jimmy G, number one, 26.5 point implied team total. That's very good, right? This game, I think that Aaron Rodgers and that offense is going to have a better time moving the ball than the opponents that the 49ers have had so far this season with Philadelphia and Detroit. So that's good. You can have a little bit more back and forth. Here's the other thing. There's one matchup I really like in this game. And that's George Kittle. Kittle has not done much through the first 2 weeks of the season. They've only targeted their tight ends at a 17% clip, which is one of the low, it's a below average rate, which is crazy because you have George Kittle on your team. But I'm starting to do something a little different that I'm going to introduce on this show throughout the season. But I'm adjusting positional target share allowed. And so I'm taking a team's target share that they give up to different positions. So running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And I'm adjusting that for the opponents that they've faced. And so if you look at Green Bay right now, they're first in the NFL in adjusted target share allowed to the tight end position. And what that means is through the first 2 weeks of the season, and there's a small sample size, so don't take this to heart as if this is what the metric is going to show. But in week 1, New Orleans, Adam Troutman and Juwan Johnson, they were targeted at a really high rate. And then in week 2, TJ Hawkinson was targeted at a high rate / did very well in that game against Green Bay. They've added 7 percentage points to the tight end target share to tight end groups that have faced them. So look at a team like San Francisco. Hypothetically, they've had a 17% target share against Green Bay this year. Add 7 percentage points to that. Maybe we see George Kittle with a quarter of the team's targets this week because of that matchup. So I really like that aspect of this game. I think Jimmy G, some people might say that he's in a tier below. He's a deep play. I think he's right there with the other guys. I really do. And then I would put Daniel Jones at the top.
The Packers have, without Zadarius Smith, who had 12.5 sacks last year, he's out, I guess, indefinitely at this point. Without him, they have the league's lowest sack rate through 2 games. So
it's terrible. Yeah,
it's not good.
Let's go to defense.
Yes,
Denny,
let's do defenses.
You have 2 defenses, I believe. So go ahead and talk about them.
All right, yeah, we're back to the Panthers at Houston. So Davis Mills is officially starting. Dave Culley announced today. By the way, I'm so glad that we don't have to talk about Deshaun Watson. Will he play? Will he not play? Yeah. The team immediately shot that down.
Yeah.
Carolina leads the league with a 14.5% sack rate. They've held opposing passers to a 52% completion rate through 2 weeks. Mills, when he played in week 2, when he came in for Tyrod, Tyrod, I should say, who has the hamstring issue, he was 8 for 18, 102 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Mills was the 5th worst quarterback in week 2 when under pressure per Pro Football Focus. So I think we have a good formula here for some turnovers for the Panthers defense.
Agreed. I think they're the top streamer now that we have more information about all that. I had the Raiders in 15 transactions this week, but now it would be the Panthers. But the Raiders, they get Miami. Tua's banged up, so if Tua doesn't go, I still think the Raiders are close. I would still play Carolina, but I think the Raiders are close. They're at home. They're 3.5 point favorites, 45.5 point over under. The Raiders defense has not been that bad to start the season. They have 5 sacks and 3 takeaways. So I actually think that they're not a terrible play either. I would play Carolina. I don't know about you. I'd play Carolina over Vegas, but I think it's kind of close.
Well, I have to say, if Brissett is going to start, and I don't know if we're going to get that confirmation before Thursday,
right?
But if we do, I think I'm playing the Raiders.
There you go.
Over the Panthers. The Raiders defense with Gus Bradley is cooking. They're cooking.
Yeah. Looking good.
The Titans. Don't forget about the Titans. If Carson Wentz, who has the maximum number of sprained ankles at 2, if he sits, this week. I mean, how, honestly?
That dude walks out the front door and gets hurt. It's crazy.
You know what? I remember there's one time where he ran in a touchdown, really impressive run, and he almost looked like he almost tore his ACL celebrating the touchdown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, can this guy get some like body awareness? Can someone teach that? I don't know. Anyway, so if Wentz is out, Jacob Eason starts for Indy, making the Titans a viable play. Eason was 2 for 5 with a pick in limited week 2 action against the Rams. He has a reputation, talking about Eason, as a big, incredibly inaccurate arm. Tennessee is putting pressure on the QB at the 7th highest rate in the league. So things are looking down for the Colts. The Titans defense stinks, by the way, but they could be serviceable here.
Yeah, I think that's why they're not in the same tier as the Raiders and Panthers, because the Titans defense has just been so bad to start the year that it's hard to really rely on them. Yeah. Let's go through these tight ends fairly quickly. Dawson Knox is one guy. Look, tight end sucks. The streamers suck. Just to throw that out there. Dawson Knox, though, he has a 9% target share this year. Not great. But he's seen 13% of the team's receiving yards. So that's a little bit better. One of the reasons that I think that he's kind of intriguing, he saw an uptick in routes run this past week in a positive game script. He ran 4 fewer routes than Stephon Diggs did and 3 fewer than Emmanuel Sanders did.
Okay.
Dawson Knox did. Maybe that was due to the Gabe Davis injury, because I don't think Gabriel Davis even ran a route in that game. But I will say that I think that it's more likely that it was game script related, because they were just ahead. You're going to throw bigger bodies out there. You're not going to spread them out on defense or anything like that. But here's the thing, Denny, the Bills are 8.5 point favorites in this game this week.
Let's go.
So maybe we see more Dawson Knox. Maybe he runs more routes, and maybe Josh Allen decides to target him a little bit more. Sure.
Sean McDermott, if you're listening, you know what to do.
Yeah.
All right, I have Max Williams. I have entirely too much information on Max Williams' matchup against the Jaguars. By the way, Max Williams is the Cardinals tight end.
He's on the Cardinals. Just so you guys know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I assume everybody is sick and knows that. So he had a big day against Minnesota last week. 7 catches, 94 yards. I'm going to fly through this as much as I can. He only ran around on 58% of Kyler Murray's dropbacks. That's a little concerning. In week 1, that number was 66%. He only saw 1 target in week 1. So we're talking about a very volatile option here, but the matchup is right. The Jags are averaging, tight ends are averaging 9 targets per game against the Jags. Tight ends seeing a 27.3% target share against Jacksonville per JJ's research. And last week, Denver tight end saw 11 targets versus the Jags. Even Albert O got in on it. So Max Williams is usable.
Let's go to David Njoku. It's really, really hard to figure out the Browns tight end situation, but here's the thing. OBJ, is he going to be back? Sounds like he might be back. I don't really know, but Jarvis Landry's out. He's on IR right now. They don't have pass catchers, really reliable ones to throw to. And we've seen that over the first 2 weeks of the season too. Like, don't get me wrong. We've basically seen that. The Browns have targeted their tight ends on 46% of their target of their overall targets this year. They have a 46% target share. That's by far the highest in the league. Second is Vegas with Darren Waller at 35%. They're using sort of this like committee with David Njoku, Austin Hooper, and Harrison Bryant. Njoku has run the second most routes on that team. Austin Hooper was banged up, I think, a little bit in week 1, but he still has more routes overall than Njoku. He would be the one that you definitely would want. But Njoku's still running a decent amount of routes. He's the number 2 tight end in terms of routes run on this team. And Chicago's the 3rd best matchup in adjusted tight end targets allowed, or target share allowed so far. He's a super, super deep play. Maybe you're in a start 2 tight end league or something, or you're in a deep league and everyone's rostering tight ends. I can see going this direction without Jarvis Landry being active. But I think there are other options on this list that I'd probably play even Dawson Knox over David Njoku.
Friend of the show, Neil Dutton, I believe is a big Njoku truther. I think your guy is happening, Neil. I think Njoku could happen, could emerge here. All right, I have Tyler Conklin against the Seahawks again. Conklin is the Vikings tight end. It's a good fantasy environment, which is very important for tight ends. The Minnesota-Seattle game is tied for the highest total of the week at 56. Conklin is 10th in tight end routes through 2 weeks. He has 8 targets, which, is not fantastic, but we don't have much to work with. Seattle looks like a tough tight end matchup, but you have to remember they play Tennessee and Indianapolis, 2 teams which don't really use their tight ends all that much. So we're not sure if it's a good or bad matchup. It's always a good process, though, to throw a tight end in your lineup who is in a potentially high scoring game.
I have Stefan Rodriguez as my. No, I'm just kidding. It's just. I was wondering if anyone would even notice that he wasn't a tight end. No, the last tight end I want to talk about is Zach Ertz. He's an actual tight end. I think Ertz is a sneaky play.
Does he have COVID?
Does he?
I'm checking now.
I don't think he has COVID.
I thought I saw a designation, but I'm checking.
Did that
anyway?
change?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, if Zach Ertz is COVID free, 51.5 point over under against Dallas this week. The Eagles are 3.5 point underdogs. That could force more throwing. Right now, Philly has an overall pass to rush ratio under 1, which means they're running the ball more than they've thrown it. Against Dallas, they might not be able to do that. Zach Ertz has run 1 fewer route than Dallas Goedert so far this year, but he only has an 8% target share versus Dallas Goedert's 12% target share. So you still should prefer Goedert, but in this game where there could be more passing, et cetera, you're targeting this game because there's a high over under, it could be a lot of scoring. Zach Ertz would be your dude.
Yeah, Ertz is on the COVID list. We're not sure if he's.
Did that happen today?
That happened on the 20th. So last night, I think.
Okay. Well, I missed that news. Sorry, guys. But at least now you know that you can play Ertz if he's fine. But if he's not fine, then don't play him.
Maybe check NBC Sports Edge every once in a while. It's just a thought.
I honestly had no idea that Zach Ertz had this COVID situation.
I just passingly saw it.
I'm glad that you saw it because now we're giving the listeners good information.
That's right. All right. Last but not least, this is a super deep play. Please stop throwing eggs in my house. Luke Farrell.
This is a real person.
He is a real person. I swear. He was a blocking tight end at Ohio State. He caught 2 touchdowns in the national championship game last year. Anyway, he's playing the Cardinals. James O'Shaughnessy's season is over. He is not playing this week or anytime soon. He has a high ankle sprain. Luke Farrell stepped in last week as the primary pass catching and route running tight end for Jacksonville. So do with that what you will. I don't know what to say.
So to recap, we have Luke Farrell, Tyler Conklin, Max. What sounds like I'm reading off their graduation names, so they can walk across the stage.
Right.
Max Williams, Zach Ertz, David Njoku, Dawson Knox. Titans D as a deep one. Panthers D, Raiders D, Jimmy G, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones. I know we named a lot of them, but I think that we at least walk through, who we would play above the other and all of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Let's go to Twitter. We have a question from @Rookmatic. Can we get a GoFundMe started for JJ to go to a real barber shop or salon? There's no way, quote, who knows what can happen should be the attitude of an adult about to get a haircut in the year of our Lord 2021. Now, look. Look, okay. I get it. I understand it. The convenience of the greatest of clips is unmatched, really. I don't want to have to make appointments and do that. I don't need that. I'm going to go to Great Clips. I'm going to walk in and say, I don't know what my hair is going to look like when I walk out of this place, but it's going to be a hell of a ride.
I guess that's one way to look at it. And, I don't get it. I can't relate on any level. As someone who drives to freaking DC to get his haircut every 3 months, but to each his own. Now, I will say that your head of hair is so solid that it can withstand some questionable cuts. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. That's why I can do this. I feel like. Yeah,
right. So you're really what you're doing is just showing off, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, this is just a giant flex.
Yeah.
Next question @Noda_burner. Kicker question for our kicker king. Is a guy like Carlson fine to just set and forget for most of the season? Even in matchups, I feel like Gruden is the type of guy to kick a field goal down 21 with 7:48 left in the game. Not sure he'll ever have a game where he doesn't get field goal tries.
Yes, good question. I wrote up Carlson, an expanded blurb thing on Carlson today in my kicker column on NBC Sports Edge. Check it out. Carlson is an every week starter. I hereby declare. Okay. And the Raiders offense clicking the way it is and their upcoming schedule for at least 6 weeks, I don't see any hiccups. And unless Derek Carr is hurt, the ankle thing from last week, if he misses any time, you got to abandon Carlson, I think, because then Nathan Peterman is starting.
Hey, hell to Pitt.
And you right, and you would never want to start a Pitt a guy in a pit run offense.
Just wait for Kenny Pickett next year, boys. Just wait.
I'll assume that's a real person. And anyway, so yes, to answer your question, we are locked in on Daniel Carlson.
Next question at Fut Bumbles. I am pro downfield lateral in literally any football situation. Where does Denny and JJ stand when it comes to the coolest play in football?
So, that is a cool play.
I'm assuming that this is related to the Zeke CD Lamb thing that happened. Remember the lateral that we saw in that game at the end of the half? I feel like this maneuver and this move is underutilized in the NFL.
Yes.
Like we never there's too much fear with these coaches and these play callers that they're going to lose the ball without thinking about the upside.
Yes, no, you're right. And savvy players do it really well. Like players with great awareness of everybody else on the field on where they are and how fast they're going and how fast their teammates are going. Randy Moss was always really good at
Do you remember? I was just going to say, do you remember the Randy Moss, Mo Williams play?
Yes.
It's just like etched in my, I'm like, I will never forget that play. It was amazing.
I think it actually it feels a little bit like a point guard, like trying to keep a play alive, saving a ball from going out of bounds in basketball, like that's sort of like field general mentality. And CD Lamb has it. You can tell the way he did that. That was awesome. Like underutilized. It'll never be utilized though, because coaches just wear diapers. They're just crapping their pants the entire game. They just fear mistakes so much that they would never do that. By the way, shout out to John Harbaugh for going on fourth down.
I was about to say that I immediately texted my in-laws family, and because there's a running joke, because I've now become less of a Steeler fan and they're Ravens fans. And it's become a joke where when Lamar Jackson was coming up, because I was really high on him, I said my Ravens to, it's like my team now. So anytime they have a big win like that, I just text them in all caps, my Ravens. And I actually meant it this time, like from my heart, when John Harbaugh did that.
That was a cool moment. That was a cool moment. You could read his lips.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing.
He goes, Lamar, you want to go for it?
If that doesn't get you going at midnight in the East Coast, then you're not a football fan. It was amazing. It was just so perfect. I loved it so much. It was awesome. Next question at Charles Sword. What is the ideal soup and sandwich combination, and what would you pair with a meat mountain? All right, let's forget that second question. Soup and sandwich. Number one, I mean, it's got to be as gluten and dairy free as possible now for me, as we know. Did you know that I eat gluten free, Denny?
No, tell me about it.
Yeah, soy and dairy free as well. Yeah. No, so I'm a big like just a Italian sub kind of guy.
Okay.
That's usually the angle I go out with sandwich. And then, cause I'm thinking more like deli meat type sandwich here with this question. And then soup. I don't know. Soup. I think soup is a little bit overrated. And I know that Never Had a Good Soup Twitter is going to come after me for that, but I think soup is a little bit overrated because it's so redundant. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's the same bite over and over and over again.
It's not good. Stop with the soup. Soup's not a meal. I can't answer this question because I don't like sandwiches. I don't like soup. So, I don't know what to say here. I mean, I do like crab soup because I'm legally obligated to.
Right. I don't like back when I was eating dairy, because I don't know if you know this, but I don't eat dairy anymore, Denny.
I don't know.
Like I didn't mind like a broccoli cheddar soup. I thought that that a good one was actually pretty good. And here's one soup that is fairly good, especially if you're not feeling great, is wedding soup. Wedding soup is pretty good. As long as it's like you get little noodle balls and like some meat in there and some spinach and some carrot. I mean, it's just good. But the one thing I will say with soup, you absolutely need like chunks of something.
Yeah.
You need substance in there. You can't be like tomato soup. Get out of here with tomato soup.
Yeah,
If
honestly.
anyone's eating tomato soup with just a spoon and not dipping a grilled cheese in it or something, you are a psychopath.
I mean, what's going on there? Tomato soup is so disgusting. But yeah, I mean, yeah, some would call it chunky soup. It's good.
Yeah. Next question at I don't know how to pronounce this. Altrurius. Is it ever okay to wear socks and sandals? What about sandals with jeans?
I've been wearing socks with sandals for some reason, but I've been
like
around
recently or just like in like forever.
No, just recently. But I've been, around. It's only around the house. I would never go in public like that.
I think my wife would start gagging if she saw me doing that around the house. Even. Yeah,
I mean,
such a faux pas.
I'm not wearing anything else. It's just the socks and the sandals. But
okay. Well then, yeah, it's way more appealing than for your wife. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big sandals guy, to be honest with you. I like the resort. I went there for my honeymoon, but I don't put them on my feet very often. I do. I like maybe if I'm at the beach, I'll do flip flops, or if I go to the pool, I'll do flip flops. But I don't have a pair of Jesus sandals in my closet. I'll say that at least.
My feet. First of all, religion. We shouldn't be.
You're right. You're right.
And secondly, my feet sweat too much to not wear socks and wear sandals.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, so are your sandals? Are they flip flops?
They're like Adidas soft.
Okay.
sandals.
Yeah. Okay. So you just look like a Zoomer then.
Do I? Oh, is that what they're wearing?
Yeah, that's what they'll wear, like the high socks with the like Adidas flip flops.
Oh, it's ankle socks. So I don't think I'm a Zoomer.
Oh, you're wearing ankle socks. You just you're just outing yourself as a millennial. Next question at Sweet Pete 1034. I incorrectly trusted a fart this morning. Having said that, what is the cutoff between selling high on a player versus keeping that player all year? These questions always I get questions like this for my mailbag episode every week. And the answer is, it depends. Depends on the player itself. You can't, there's just so many factors to it. You just don't, it's not a blanket thing that you can figure out.
Can we say, just very briefly, can we say usage?
Yeah. Usage is a good, like, if it is it sustainable? Is what they're doing sustainable? Right. And then go from there. Yeah. At Matt Porter 328, my daughter just turned 2 and is obsessed with Frozen, of course. As a fellow #girl dad, what Disney movie do you enjoy more now with your daughters? And what was your favorite Disney movie when you were a kid? Good question. So Avery Avery just turned 3 in July, and we watch she'll watch shows all the time. She loves Paw Patrol. Like she's just she's in that phase right now. And we watch like the Paw Patrol movie, but she's still not a sit down and just watch the whole movie while, like all the way through. But if we do, we're still on the Frozen train right now.
Yeah. Right. I mean, my daughter Eleanor has been obsessed with Frozen for years. Just plays Frozen dolls, then watches the movie, then plays, she's Elsa, then it's constant. I've seen the movie. Is that the question? Have we seen Frozen?
Well, so what are your daughters into? And then what was your favorite Disney movie growing up?
I mean, I guess Mighty Ducks, probably.
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's D2. D2 is the only acceptable answer to that.
I mean, D1 was good too.
No, D2 is better. It's the only movie where the second iteration was better than the first.
It's better than D Fire. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is better than D Fire. Here's my Disney movie of choice growing up. Mighty Ducks is a really good answer because I know literally every line to D2, but I think my answer to this, I'm not going to go cartoon. I'm going to go with Hook.
Oh yeah, I did love Hook.
Yeah, Hook is it was on the other day, and I watched a good half hour of it because it's a damn good movie.
I can't come up with like another one that I liked more than Hook.
Hook is so good.
That's really, really great answer.
And it's one of those movies too, where when you're little, when you're like 7 years old watching that or something, you don't really comprehend how creative the movie is.
No.
Right? No, it's one of those movies when you're older and you're like, wow, this is really cool. Right. This is a really good movie. Really well done.
One thing on the Disney front, and then we can go on. If anybody ever gets a chance to YouTube the 80s Disney Halloween special, do it. You'll love it. I guarantee it'll bring back memories. If you're over 35 years old, it'll bring back memories like a mother. I'm telling you.
I missed the cutoff by a couple of years.
Well, you can still do it.
I got to end. Next question at Fantasy Ronin. Hey guys, loving the content. What would be your going rate if you charged to be on other people's podcasts, both individually and as a duo? I mean, as a duo, we'd have to like triple our individual rates.
Well, I think individually it'd be $69 per hour, and then as a duo it'd be $420.
Yeah, that's a good rule. Yeah, that's what I would say too. Let's see. I don't know how much time. I don't think we have that much time left, but I will go with @boo_duh_pest. When it comes to your cell phone, are you guys light mode or dark mode, and why? Look, I get made fun of all the time on Twitter for this because I take screenshots and stuff. I am team light mode all day long, every app, Twitter, etc. Team light mode. Let's go.
So I've been shamed into going to dark mode because this is
shamed into going to dark mode.
This is what the kids are using, and so anytime anybody in their 20s sees someone with light mode, they lose their minds. Oh, how could you do that? Aren't your eyes burning out of your skull? No, my eyes are just fine.
Yeah, my eyes feel great with light mode. Yeah,
I never thought about it. Your eyes, it's not actual heat coming out. It's just the light mode.
Right. And I believe I saw a study where some people just prefer light mode to dark mode. Like it's just the way that their eyes work. So all you people, like, here's the thing. You never have light mode people shaming dark mode people. You have dark mode people only shaming light mode people.
It's true. You're right. This cancellation of light mode people must end.
Yes. Let's just go with one more question this week that's fantasy related too. This is from @Plaisance. Fields if Dalton is ruled out, or the streamers, specifically Teddy?
Fields.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'd probably lean Fields. Actually, if this week alone, I would pick up Fields. Like he's the top pickup if he's on your waiver wire, because I would want that season-long upside. But I think I'm playing straight up Daniel Jones over Justin Fields this week.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All right. Well,
so that didn't help you at all. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm going Fields.
The last thing I want to note is from our pal Bethany L. Peters. And she said, "Hey guys, love the show. Can you please do a quick plug for my London Marathon fundraiser? I need one more child sponsored to reach my goal of 26 kids. Marathon is on October 3rd. And JJ, congrats on becoming a quote new dad." So I know that you sponsored a child not long ago, correct, Denny?
Yeah. I started a best ball league, and everybody chipped in, and
that's what it was.
that.
So I sponsored one last night, and it's a cool thing that Bethany's doing through World Vision. Is that what it is? Team World
Vision. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you sponsor a child, you give money every month to help this child live, and you get to see updates on the child, et cetera, et cetera. And Bethany is trying to raise funds for the London Marathon, and you guys should definitely check it out. I will retweet it from the Twitter account @LiveTheStreamFF. Check out that Twitter account, and you will see the tweet from Bethany. But that's gonna be the last thing I want to add with the Twitter stuff, because I think it's important. And Bethany has been an unbelievable supporter of our show through the years.
Absolutely.
All right, Denny, that's gonna do it for today's show. Where can everyone find you?
@CDCarter13 on Twitter, and you can find all my work. I have 2 weekly columns and 47 podcasts on NBCSportsEdge.com.
I'm on Twitter @LateRoundQB. You can find my other podcast, the Late Round Podcast, anywhere podcasts can be found. I believe I saw a file come through my email on Sunday night.
Yes, you did.
And
it was the file was titled Week 2 Tilt Montage.
So guys, you get a tilt montage, enjoy it, and we will talk to you next week.
It's 3:57 p.m. in the only legitimate time zone on planet Earth, the Eastern time zone. And I'm wondering about Trevor Lawrence. I'm wondering if Urban Meyer hears the letters USC every time Trevor Lawrence drops back. He's being exposed against this Denver defense. It's a good defense, no doubt, but I mean, he looks like shit. Sorry to the kids. apologies to the kids listening, but Trevor Lawrence doesn't look great. I did a couple pieces where I this offseason where I had to look into Trevor Lawrence's college production. And as you know, I don't really expose myself to college football because it's the worst. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it with Trevor Lawrence. I got it with Trey Lance. I got it with Justin Fields. I even got it with Mac Jones. Didn't get it with Trevor Lawrence. What was the big deal? What is the big deal about this kid? I don't know. I don't know. So obviously I could be eating my words by next week, but I don't think I will be. I don't think I will be, mostly because I've never been owned, and mostly because Urban Meyer is his coach, and both of them will be gone from Jacksonville in 4 years. And I should say Lawrence will be gone after his rookie contract. Urban Meyer will be gone by Christmas. And did I have Trevor Lawrence in DFS today? Heavily exposed to him in DFS? Yes. It's funny you would ask because the answer is yes. I'm tilting. 4:08 p.m. Eastern Time Zone, and shout out quickly to the Steelers for absolutely ruining the libs today, setting back liberalism in America by at least 50 years. They punted on 2 late game possessions when they should have easily gone for it. No-brainer situations. They punted instead, and they're going to lose to the Raiders. Looks like 26-17. But most importantly, look, when you have a chance to truly trigger the analytics libs, you gotta take it. Those chances don't come around all that often, especially not late in the game, where you can do something that upsets analytics advocates even if you lose. Your winning or losing is secondary to upsetting the people who disagree with your approach to football. That goes without saying. So Mike Tomlin, this one's for you. You've triggered me. I'm upset. Mission accomplished. I'm tilting. All right, we have a live tilt here. It's 5:38 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone. The Titans are at the 11-yard line. Tannehill drops back. Actually, he hands it to Derrick Henry. Of course he does. What I need here, folks, is an A.J. Brown touchdown. That's what I need, in case you're wondering. And I just want to give you a taste of my live tilt. Oh, there's Prater. Prater from 50-some yards right down the pipe. Let's go. All right. You know, when you're a kicker tout and your guy nails a 50-some yarder, you feel alive. You don't feel dead, I guess is what I would say. Man, that Vikings-Cardinals game is fun as hell. Way to go, Vikings and Cardinals, for not sucking like everybody else. All right, we're back to this Titans game after a short delay, 2-minute warning. Up the gut, Henry again. The Titans are just absolutely owning the libs at every opportunity. 2 yards and a cloud of dust. Not even 3 yards. 2 yards and a cloud of dust. All right, now we have 3rd and 5 from the 8-yard line for Tennessee. Again, I'm going to need an A.J. Brown touchdown. A.J. Brown lined up in the slot. One time. Can I get a one time in the chat? One time? Nope. It's Julio. Shit. I'm tilting.
Thank you for listening to Living the Stream. We hope you enjoyed the internet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes now. It won't take long, it's fast. For more fantasy football info, check out lateroundqb.com. Hope you come back soon as we share a